Good morning, everybody. My name is Owens Svennungsen. I work as an associate professor in career guidance. I teach career guidance courses and I do research in the field of career guidance and more specific how to facilitate meaningful learning, career learning activities. So today I'm going to talk about how to facilitate career learning in virtual reality, where I'm going to focus on the DOTS model. And in the career counseling field and also in vocational training, the DOTS model is a comprehensive framework for facilitating career learning. I'm going to give a brief introduction to the DOTS model. What I can just say now is that the DOTS, it stands for decision-making competence. The O is for opportunity awareness, the T is for transitions, and the S is for self-awareness. So my aim today is to how can we facilitate decision learning, opportunity awareness, transitions, and more insight into your self-insight, self-awareness, so that you develop a more comprehensive vocational identity. And what I can say about the DOTS model is that it has been done a lot of empirical research about the DOTS model in terms of making human beings ready for the world of work, changing work paths, and so on. And most of the results in many different countries points out that this DOTS model is a very helpful tool framework for making people more ready for the world of work. And just to say that the DOTS model was developed by two researchers, Bill Law and Tony Watts. And I also want to I will have focus on the immersive experiences and the interactive experience between the human being and the job simulations. Okay, so before I start, there is a very important question to answer, because when it comes to the DOTS model and virtual reality, unfortunately, there is quite a little research in combining those two. I will refer to a Norwegian report where we have some few results in terms of the concepts of the DOTS model in terms of using virtual reality. But why does the DOTS model fit into the virtual reality career guidance or vocational training? Anthony Mann, a career guidance researcher, did a study among teenagers through many different European countries. And the main result he found were when does career guidance work? It is when they are offered realistic and authentic career learning activities. And when it comes to virtual reality, when it comes to VR for VET, there is a huge opportunity where we can offer realistic and authentic career learning activities. And that's why I think that the DOTS model can fit very good to virtual reality. And just to give you a brief introduction to the DOTS model, there are 4 components that I mentioned earlier. if you start with the self, who am I? What are my strengths? What do I know about myself that I want to use in the world of work? You have decisions. How do I make decisions? What factors are important for me to when I'm going to make decisions in terms of my career or in the job shifts and so on? And you also got the opportunities. What kind of opportunities do I have? And when it comes to opportunities, that is the component that explicitly fits into the different job simulations in virtual reality, because you get to know what options are, what kind of skills do I need, what kind of qualifications is demanded, and so on. And when it comes to transitions, what do I need to prepare for entering the world of work, for example, from education to employment? And these components are what we call 4 important career competences. That is important to manage your career and your career choices and your career development. And getting to know more about yourself, more about the opportunities, more about the decisions, and more about the transitions. That is what we define as career learning, that we facilitate more awareness about the 4 career competences. And it is one very important perspective is that the motivation for learning. There has to be a motivation for learning, and it was what Carol Dweck is talking about, the growth mindset. You have to be open for learning new things. You have to kind of be open for that maybe things you didn't expect you come aware of, and you don't just shove it away. You try and reflect about it. So the purpose of integrating VR with the DOTS model in vocational training and also in career guidance is to give a different experience, an interactive experience, where a more fun, engaging career learning activity, which is structured. And according to the Norwegian report that I'm going to talk about a little bit later today, the concept of opportunity awareness was the main concept that individuals learned explicitly about in VR. However, self-awareness, decision-making, and transitions were topics that counselors saw was very relevant, but the condition was that they had a conversation afterwards where they brought up perspectives about self-awareness, decisions, and transitions. And also, before I go into each of the components, yesterday there were been said that for VR to have to gain better learning outcomes, there has to be what is the intention. And I also think that in using the DOTS model, we have to think about what is the objective, what is the activities, and what are the wished outcomes. And I will present some examples on how we can think about the objectives, the activities, and outcomes in each part. And when it comes to decision learning competence, to make decisions, that is a very, very hard thing. Most people think that's hard. What should I prioritize? And so on. And people who have low experience with making decisions thinks it's much harder, especially if they don't have any much experience in the world of work, or for example, in education. To take decisions is a very hard thing. It can be scary. People are scared to decide on something wrong. They want to make the correct decision. And facilitating decision learning competence is not about only making the correct choice, but it's about getting to know yourself and what is important for you when you are taking decision in terms of your career and work. And I think that in VR, we have a great opportunity to reflect about the decision learning and what is important for you. And especially because we are offered simulated career scenarios. We are, for example, in VR for vet. Okay. Yeah. What happened now? Yeah. Sorry about that. You are offered different scenarios, the blue sector, the construction, the cloud engineering, and you can kind of imagine when people are doing all the different tasks there and ask the question, if we're going to choose one of them, what could be most important? What is important for you? And also, you can also what we call the role play. And if you want to decide in one of them, what is important for you, for example. And when it comes to decision learning competence, we usually talk about 4 different components. That's understanding the decision-making process. It is identifying options and evaluating choices and making informed decisions. And I've just made some suggestions on what the objective can be in VR to understand the decision-making process. So, for example, in understanding, learning about different jobs.
You check what the table is open. I think that part is going to have it, so it might be pulling.
Would this be better? Yeah, I try that. Okay. So the objective in VR to understand the decision-making component, they learn about different jobs, and the objective is what is important for you when you choose. And the ideal outcome, I want to say it's ideal because it's not so easy to gain the outcome that I have more insight in how to choose, but they might have some reflections that has to do some small awareness about choosing. And all of these perspectives, understanding, identifying, evaluating, and making informed decisions, they go into each other. And often the main target is to get more knowledge about the decision learning competence is in identifying options and evaluating choices. Because within those 2, you also get to a better understanding in the decision-making process and also making informed choices. So what kind of reflective activities, questions could we ask? These are just only examples. I won't go into every one of them. These are just suggestions on what relevant question is going to be. Some are more complicated than others, and it's just to show you what kind of questions one could ask after trying out the VR apps, after trying the 3 apps we have in this project. And also some of the questions can also be prepared on forehand, and some can be discussed. Can we have kind of 1 or 2 questions in the app, or would that be too much information for when people are trying out the apps? And it's just about being kind of creative, and also be thinking about what is the objective of trying to help people make better decisions for themselves in terms of their career. And the next one is opportunity awareness. That involves understanding the range of possibilities and knowing how to access them, getting more awareness about what the skills are, what is demanded by me, and so on. And here, as I talked in the beginning, this is kind of a more direct link to the different apps. In general, when it comes to opportunity awareness, the immersive experience allows us to have a direct interaction with the companies and a deeper understanding of available opportunities. By using VR to develop opportunity awareness, like in VR for Vet, users take a VR tour in different industries and gaining insights into various environments, tasks, industry demands. And this helps them to understand the practical working tasks of different careers, and that will also help in terms of self-awareness, transitions, and so on. And also here I have just marked 3 important components of opportunity awareness that are usually worked upon in career guidance, where this is where people might have low insights or wondering what are my opportunities. Often it's exploring career paths, labor market information, and employer expectations. So what are the objectives and what are the wished and ideal outcomes? And in terms of my view of this, I think that the different job apps that exist in this project and other apps, it gives us an opportunity, especially when it comes to gaining knowledge about the industries and get a clear understanding of the job in the apps. And also it gives people sufficient information about the skills and what I need to develop. And also what are the different industries looking for in terms of skills, experience, and qualifications, and where they actually physical has to try out the different jobs, and and in that perspective develop skills that they might not be aware of. And here also lots of questions. These are just examples on how career counselors can think of what kind of questions can you ask the user, and also vocational trainers. So also here are some different, some are more complicated than others, and of course, the more simplified it is, the more easier it is, especially in terms of one target group that might have for low experience in reflecting and so on. So, for example, in exploring career paths, the last question is what did you learn about installing hard drive, replacing hard drive, installing and updating in cloud engineering? What did you learn in trying to assemble a wall or assembling a wooden frame in construction? Did you discover any unknown skills? And also when it comes to employer expectations, how did the demanded skills in the construction industry affect you? Did you learn the key skills for the job, and so on? And also, when it comes to transition learning, this is about preparing individuals for career transitions from education to work, from work to work, from education to education, and so on. And also, transitions can be very scary for people. People like to be in their own comfort zone and trying something new that they don't know anything about, trying to applying for a new job, for example, in the blue sector industry, and they don't know anything about it, how the transition could be. VR has a good opportunity to prepare them for transitions. And also adapting to new environments. And here's the same. How can we use VR? It is simulated work environments, experience new jobs, gaining practical skills and confidence before transitioning. And this can include simulation of typical workdays in different roles and such on. And also in adaptation training, it can help to practice adapt to new work environments, tools, and procedures. And this is particularly useful for those transitioning into unfamiliar industries and roles. And especially, I've come with two examples, education to employment and the resilience and adaptability, that are two important concepts in the transition learning concept. There are also other things, for example, career progression and so on, but I've chosen these two. And what is important here is that they have to gain some type of insight into how to transition from education to work, and they in some way can feel prepared for it through the VR experience. And also when it comes to adaptability, developing the ability to cope with change and so on. And also the outcome, I'm ready to adapt to new work environments. And also what is important to all of the four different components is the lifelong learning. Things change, but by kind of reflecting and training themselves in the four different competencies, it can be transferred to later choices, later new pathways in their career. Here I've also just come with some examples of questions one could ask before. Is it possible to have any questions in the app or afterwards? And for example, it comes to education to employment, For example, did feedback or performance in the different apps give you any insight on what is important to learn so that the transition comes easier? Did the different tasks in the construction or blue sector help you to prepare for the transition? And so on. And what are the biggest challenges, for example, you anticipate you have after trying different apps? And in terms of the resilience and adaptability, do you feel prepared for handling unexpected changes after trying in the apps? Yes. Okay, why? No. Could you say something more about that? For example, anticipate you have been offered a position. How confident are you in making necessary adjustments, and so on? All the tasks and the problem solvings in each of the app in the VR for VET can help with the transition in an implicit way. Has anybody control over the time?
15 minutes to 10. So I think
yeah.
Scheduled for phenomenal.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah. And then it comes to the last dimension, self-awareness. What are my strengths, weaknesses, interests, value? Who am I? What strengths in me do I want to pursue in the world of work? When it comes to weaknesses, and that is something that should be kind of a bit careful with. It depends on the target groups, who are the groups, because if we kind of try to elaborate weaknesses with people with very low mastery experiences, it wouldn't help them. Using VR for developing self-awareness, you could use VR for self-assessment, reflected VR exercises, and personal VR experiences by trying out different apps. And when it comes to reflective VR exercises, in general, the VR applications can be designed for reflection that can use to explore career goals or aspirations in a more immersive way. And VR can contribute to a good reflection base when it comes to self-awareness, but also the other three dimensions. And when it comes to personalized VR experiences, VR can be customized to match individual preferences, helping users to explore careers that align with their personality and the skills. For example, I've always been interested in construction work, and now I've tried it in VR. I know that that is the correct career path. I think I'm interested in the blue sector, but I'm not sure if it fits me. And by trying physical training in VR, it helps to develop self-awareness. And here are kind of three important perspectives. Don't have to work with all of them, but here is also who is the target is important. And identifying strengths and weaknesses in VR. The objective could be understand one's abilities, preferences, or areas for improvement. The outcome can have, I have a clear understanding about my strengths and weaknesses. And in terms of values and motivation, reflecting on what is important in one's career, such as work-life balance, job satisfaction, and personal fulfillment, where probably the most important that they have a clear understanding of what is my motivations in the world of work. And also setting career goals where the ideal outcome is I have a strong sense of what my vocational identity and self-awareness is after trying VR apps. And here I would also try to just formulate some questions that could be relevant in identifying strengths, weaknesses, values, and motivations and career goals. And for example, in what way did the app or different apps help you to connect to your strengths and interests? Describe one insight about yourself that you gained through trying out the apps. By trying out the apps, did you feel more confident in explaining your career aspirations? For example, and also did I discover any new skills that I weren't aware of? And one example in terms of values and motivations, how did the different tasks in VR motivate you? And also in the career goals, in what way can blue sector, construction industry, or cloud engineering increase your self-awareness and vocational identity? Because the goal of not just the self-awareness, but all of the 4 dimensions is to have a greater insight in your vocational identity by facilitating a career learning experiences that are real and authentic. And it's also important to say, before I go to the end of my lecture, that it's not always appropriate to kind of work with all of 4 dimensions. It depends, because some have a lot of insight into, for example, how they want to make decisions, what factors are important for them, but they might not know how to prepare for the transition, or they don't know much about their self-awareness, what their strongest skills, interests are, and so on. So I just wanted to try to wrap this up, and integrating dots into VR for VET application and considerations. So what I've tried to kind of show some examples. Some examples might work, some might not. Is to how to include the 4 elements. Why is it relevant in VR applications? And it's also something to kind of reflect on is it possible to have reflections questions in the apps? Maybe that is too much information. Maybe they should just concentrate on trying out the different skills and tasks and day-to-day
activities. Should there be some reflection afterwards in terms of the 4 elements? And what I've said earlier, we have to ask what is the intention, and that's why I think one thing that is possible is to kind of structure learning goals that are flexible enough, not strict learning goals. Some of the objectives and outcomes I gave examples are maybe a bit strict and not flexible enough. But I think it is important for no matter what, if you have chosen to proceed in the blue sector or what, I think it's important to reflect upon those 4 elements. And also the question how to integrate this into educational settings, either in career guidance or in vocational training or in schools and so on. We have to think about what is intention to do that. And I think that by kind of reflecting about what kind of questions can we ask the users, and so on, so that they can gain more insight into the 4 different competences in the DOT model. I also just wanted to say something about the reflection level and the target groups, because this all depends on how to make learning goals, how to kind of develop relevant reflection questions in terms of using VR as a tool, as a learning possibility for career learning and competence. Who are the groups? Are the people who have low experience in education and in working life? We have to think about that. Are there people who have a lot of experience? They know their direction, the intention will in some way be a little bit different. And also in what way, how much experience does people have in reflecting? Some don't know how to reflect, so that also has to be included. So just to have a summary, I think that this can offer a structured learning activities for career learning and career competence, but we have to think about what is the objective, what kind of activities can we facilitate in conversations afterwards, when the users are trying the apps before, and what are the desired outcomes.